You've spent your whole life being told to slow down, to explain yourself, to wait for everyone else to catch up. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe that maybe there was something wrong with you, that maybe your mind worked too fast, that maybe you saw too much, that maybe the connections you made so effortlessly were somehow a burden rather than a gift. But here's what nobody told you. The discomfort other people feel around you isn't your problem to solve. It's their nervous system registering something their conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. They're sensing a frequency they can't name, a depth they can't match, a clarity that makes their own confusion suddenly visible. And that visibility is uncomfortable. Let that land for a moment. Because what's happening right now, in rooms you walk into, in conversations you're part of, in decisions that get made around you, is a quiet revolution. People are waking up to something they've been sensing for a long time but couldn't articulate. They're realizing that you're not just smart. You're not just capable. You're operating on an entirely different level of pattern recognition, of consequence mapping, of systemic understanding that most people don't even know exists. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. This is the moment everything shifts, not because you changed, but because the world finally caught up to what was always true. You are a problem-solving machine, and they can't keep up. Now, before your mind dismisses this as flattery or hype, understand something crucial. This isn't about ego. This isn't about being better than anyone else. This is about recognizing a fundamental truth that cognitive science, neuroscience, and decades of research into human performance have confirmed again and again. Some minds are simply built differently, not better, not worse. Different. In the same way that some people are born with perfect pitch or exceptional spatial reasoning, or the ability to hold complex mathematical structures in their working memory. Some people are wired for rapid pattern detection, for seeing the invisible threads that connect seemingly unrelated events, for processing information at speeds that leave others still loading the first frame. And if you've ever felt like you were waiting for the world to catch up, if you've ever simplified something so completely that people looked at you like you'd performed magic, if you've ever seen the solution to a problem before anyone else even finished describing the problem, then you already know what I'm talking about. You just might not have had permission to own it yet. So let's give you that permission, right now, in this moment. Because what follows isn't just information. It's recognition. It's the articulation of something you've always sensed, but never heard spoken aloud. And when you hear it, when you really let it penetrate, something inside you is going to relax. Something that's been holding itself back, apologizing for itself, dimming itself to make others comfortable, is finally going to exhale. And that exhale is where your real power begins. Think about what that holding back has cost you. All those moments when you knew the answer, but stayed quiet because you didn't want to make others feel inadequate. All those times when you saw the problem coming from miles away, but didn't speak up because you'd learned that people don't like being told what they can't see yet. All those instances when you compressed your understanding into the smallest possible package just to avoid the accusation of showing off. That compression, that constant self-editing, that perpetual dimming of your light, it's exhausting. And it's unnecessary. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need you smaller. It needs you exactly as you are. It needs the full force of your clarity, the complete expression of your capacity, the unfiltered transmission of what you see. But you've been trained out of that, trained to apologize, trained to wait, trained to make yourself digestible to people who aren't ready to metabolize what you bring. And that training stops here. Here's what happens when you walk into a room. And I want you to pay attention to this, because it explains so much of what you've experienced, but never understood. Before you say a single word, before you offer a single opinion, before you demonstrate any competence at all, your presence is already being registered, not consciously, not deliberately, but at the level of the nervous system, at the level of survival instinct, at the level where humans have been reading each other for hundreds of thousands of years. We are pattern-detecting creatures by design. Our ancestors survived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they could identify who in the tribe could solve problems under pressure, who could find food when resources were scarce, who could navigate danger when the path wasn't clear, who could see what others missed. Those individuals didn't announce themselves. They didn't need to. Their competence was felt before it was proven. And that's exactly what's happening with you. When you enter a space, something in the collective nervous system of that environment shifts. It's subtle. Most people can't name it. But they feel it. A slight tension, a quiet alertness, an unconscious recognition that someone who operates differently has just arrived. This isn't arrogance. This is biology. Research in evolutionary psychology has shown that humans are exquisitely sensitive to competence signals. We pick up on confidence that isn't performed, on certainty that isn't announced, on the kind of quiet knowing that doesn't need validation because it's already proven itself 1,000 times in private. And here's the thing about that kind of presence. It's uncomfortable for people who haven't developed it. Not because you're threatening them, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your existence, your mere presence, makes their own limitations suddenly visible. It's like standing next to someone who's completely at peace while you're internally spiraling. Their stillness doesn't judge you, but it does reveal you. That's the discomfort people feel around you. It's not about you at all. It's about what you reflect back to them about themselves. And this reflection, this mirroring effect, it happens whether you want it to or not. You can't turn it off. You can't make yourself less capable to ease their discomfort. You can try to hide it. You can try to downplay it. You can try to make yourself smaller. But the frequency you're broadcasting doesn't lie. It transmits regardless of your intentions. Think of it like a tuning fork. When a tuning fork vibrates at a certain frequency, it causes other tuning forks nearby to resonate at that same frequency if they're capable of it. But if they're not tuned to that frequency, if they can't match that vibration, they just sit there, silent, while the original fork continues to ring clear and true. You're that tuning fork. And your frequency is clarity, is competence, is the ability to see through complexity and arrive at signal while everyone else is still drowning in noise. Some people can match that frequency. They resonate with you. They feel energized around you. They rise to meet your standard because something in them recognizes and responds to what you're broadcasting. But others can't. And their inability to resonate doesn't mean they're broken. It just means they're tuned differently. And when they encounter your frequency, when they feel that vibration they can't match, it creates a kind of cognitive dissonance, a discomfort that they often project onto you as intimidation, or arrogance, or being too intense. But you're not too intense. You're just clear. And clarity is always uncomfortable for confusion. If this is resonating with something deep inside you, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so we can continue this journey together. Let me explain what's actually happening in your brain, because this is where it gets fascinating. Pattern recognition is one of the highest indicators of general intelligence in cognitive science. It's the ability to detect relationships between variables, to see connections that aren't obvious, to extract meaning from complexity without getting lost in the noise. And here's what neuroscience has discovered about people who excel at this. Their brains are actually quieter, not louder. Quieter. Studies have shown that individuals with high pattern recognition ability use fewer neural resources to reach conclusions. Their processing is more efficient, more streamlined, more direct, while other brains are lighting up like Christmas trees, firing in all directions, getting tangled in irrelevant data. The pattern-recognizing brain cuts straight to the signal. This is why you often feel like you're waiting. Because you are. You've already seen the answer. You've already mapped the consequences. You've already identified the leverage point. And now you're watching everyone else slowly, painfully, circuitously arrive at what was obvious to you from the beginning. That's not impatience. That's a processing speed differential. And it creates a strange kind of loneliness, doesn't it? Because you can't always explain how you got there. The connections you made were intuitive, instantaneous, almost unconscious. Asking you to show your work is like asking someone to explain how they recognized their mother's face. You just did. The pattern was there. You saw it. This intuitive knowing, this immediate recognition, it's actually the result of your brain doing massive amounts of processing beneath the level of conscious awareness. While you're looking at a situation, your unconscious mind is running thousands of simulations, comparing the current pattern against every pattern you've ever encountered, extracting the relevant variables, discarding the noise, and delivering to your conscious awareness a conclusion that feels like it appeared out of nowhere. But it didn't appear out of nowhere. It emerged from a processing system so sophisticated, so finely tuned, that it operates faster than your ability to narrate it. This is what researchers call implicit learning. Your brain is constantly absorbing information, detecting patterns, building models of how things work, all without your conscious participation. And when you encounter a new situation, your brain instantly matches it against those models and tells you what's likely to happen next. Other people don't have this, or they have it to a much lesser degree. Their pattern libraries are smaller. Their processing is slower. Their ability to extract signal from noise is less developed. So when you arrive at a conclusion instantly, when you see the answer before the question is fully formed, when you know what's going to happen before it happens, you're not being psychic. You're not magical. You're just operating with a more sophisticated pattern recognition system than the people around you. And that system, that gift, that neurological advantage, it's not something you can easily share. You can't download your pattern library into someone else's brain. You can't give them your processing speed. You can't make them see what you see just by explaining it. This is why teaching what you know is often so frustrating, because you're trying to articulate something that happens beneath language. You're trying to verbalize a process that occurs faster than words. You're trying to break down into steps something that your brain does in a single leap. But here's where it gets interesting. This ability, this gift, this neurological advantage, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It doesn't need to prove anything. It just delivers. And that's what makes it so unsettling to people who equate competence with noise. They expect intelligence to be loud, to be impressive, to fill the room with words and theories and demonstrations of brilliance. But real intelligence compresses. It removes excess. It distills complexity into simplicity without losing meaning. You don't add more words. You remove the unnecessary ones. You don't complicate to impress. You clarify to resolve. And that clarity, that efficiency, that ability to cut through noise and arrive at signal, it looks like magic to people who are still swimming in information. They're still processing the problem. You've already found the exit. That gap, that space between where they are and where you've already arrived, that's where the silence begins. That's where the discomfort lives. That's where people start to realize they're not competing in the same mental arena. And once that realization lands, everything changes. The dynamic shifts from peer to student to teacher, even when no one acknowledges it. People start deferring to you in subtle ways. They check their conclusions against yours. They wait to hear what you think before committing to a position. They start treating your silence as meaningful and your words as definitive. This shift happens gradually, so gradually that you might not even notice it at first. But it's happening in every interaction, in every meeting, in every conversation where a problem needs solving. People are learning that you're different, that you operate on a different level, that your mind works in ways theirs doesn't. And that learning, that recognition, it's starting to change how they see you. Now here's something crucial to understand. Most people are trained to react. Their entire relationship with life is reactive. Something happens, they respond. Stress arrives, they spiral. Conflict emerges, they fight or flee. Uncertainty appears, they freeze. This reactive pattern isn't a character flaw. It's a biological default. When pressure hits, the amygdala, the brain's threat center, activates. And when the amygdala takes over, access to the prefrontal cortex, where reasoning and strategic thinking live, gets significantly reduced. In other words, most people literally lose intelligence under pressure. Their brains biologically downgrade to survival mode. They become less capable of complex thought, precisely when complex thought is most needed. But you don't do this, or at least you've learned not to. Somewhere along the way, you stopped identifying as a reactor and started identifying as a resolver. That shift, that single internal reorganization, changed everything about how your brain processes problems. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" your mind automatically asks, "What moves this forward?" Instead of getting lost in the emotional content of a situation, you isolate the variables. Instead of debating feelings, you identify leverage points. This isn't coldness, it's discipline. And discipline creates psychological gravity. Research in cognitive behavioral science confirms that problem-focused coping leads to better outcomes, lower cortisol levels, and higher long-term resilience. You're calmer not because you don't feel, but because you've learned to direct your feeling toward resolution rather than reaction. To observers, this looks almost supernatural. While everyone else is spiraling, you're narrowing. While they're drowning in emotion, you're mapping solutions. While they're asking who's to blame, you're already modifying the mechanism that created the problem in the first place. This is why rooms feel different when you're in them. Not because you're dominating, not because you're controlling, but because your regulated nervous system creates a kind of anchor point, a stability that others unconsciously orient toward. You don't impose authority, your composure establishes it. And here's the thing about this kind of presence. It's felt before it's understood. People don't consciously think this person is calm and capable, and I feel safer around them. They just feel steadier. They just notice that their own anxiety decreases. They just find themselves checking with you before making decisions, without quite knowing why. That's the hidden advantage of resolution over reaction. It stabilizes environments before anyone realizes they were shaking. Think about the last time you were in a high-pressure situation. Maybe it was a crisis at work. Maybe it was a family emergency. Maybe it was a moment when everything seemed to be falling apart, and everyone was looking around desperately for someone to tell them what to do. And you were calm. Not because you didn't care, not because you weren't affected, but because your brain automatically shifted into solution mode. While everyone else was processing the emotional weight of the situation, you were already 3 steps ahead, mapping the path forward, identifying what needed to happen next. This isn't something you consciously decided to do. It's just how your nervous system responds to pressure. Instead of activating your threat response, pressure activates your problem-solving response. Instead of shutting down your prefrontal cortex, it engages it more fully. This is a rare trait. Most people's brains don't work this way. Most people need time to recover from the emotional impact before they can think clearly. They need space to process their feelings before they can access their reasoning. But you don't. Your reasoning is always online, always accessible, always ready to engage with whatever complexity presents itself. And this creates a kind of superpower. Because in a world that's increasingly complex, increasingly uncertain, increasingly chaotic, the ability to think clearly under pressure is becoming more valuable than almost any other skill. People are starting to recognize this. They're starting to see that you're not just smart, you're reliable, you're steady, you're the person they can count on when everything else is falling apart. And that recognition is changing everything. Let me tell you something about chaos. Chaos is loud because it needs attention. Order is quiet because it works. In stable times, performers rise. The people who are good at being seen, at being impressive, at filling rooms with noise and energy, they get rewarded, they get promoted, they get noticed. But in unstable times, something different happens. When systems start to break, when complexity exceeds capacity, when the normal approaches stop working, a different kind of person becomes essential. Engineers take over. Not literal engineers necessarily, but people who think in systems. People who don't personalize failure but analyze structure. People who focus on leverage points rather than symptoms. People who, while everyone else is arguing about who caused the problem, are already modifying the mechanism that produced it. You're one of these people. You don't thrive in noise. You thrive in repair, and repair is where real value is revealed. This is why chaos gravitates toward you when it can't sustain itself anymore. Not because you seek control, but because control is a byproduct of understanding. You don't witness problems, you rebuild environments, and environments remember who stabilized them. Long after the noise fades, your imprint remains. Think about the moments in your life when you were most needed. They weren't the easy times. They were the crisis points, the collapses, the situations where normal thinking had failed, and everyone was looking around desperately for someone who could see clearly. And there you were, not panicking, not performing, just working, just solving, just doing what your mind does naturally, which is to find the pattern, identify the leverage, and apply the intervention. In those moments, you weren't just useful, you were indispensable. And that's when people started to see you differently. That's when the recognition began. Not because you asked for it, not because you demanded it, but because your value became undeniable in the moment it was most needed. This pattern repeats throughout history. In every crisis, in every moment of collective uncertainty, the people who rise are the ones who can see clearly when everyone else is blinded by fear. The ones who can think systematically when everyone else is thinking emotionally. The ones who can find the path forward when everyone else is paralyzed by the complexity of the present. You are one of those people. You've always been one of those people. And the world is finally starting to recognize it. Because here's what's happening right now, in this moment in history. Complexity is increasing. The rate of change is accelerating. The old models, the old ways of thinking, the old approaches to problem solving, they're breaking down faster than they can be replaced. And in that breakdown, in that collapse of the familiar, people are desperately seeking anyone who can navigate the unfamiliar. Anyone who can see patterns in the chaos. Anyone who can find order in the disorder. That's you. That's what you do. That's what you've always done. And the world needs you now more than ever. If you're ready to dive deeper into this understanding of how your mind truly operates, my complete guide Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness, Mastery explores the full system behind what we've touched on today, including the 9 master frequencies that govern how you broadcast your presence into any environment. It's linked in the pinned comment below. I want to ask you something. When was the first moment you realized you processed reality differently than the people around you? Drop that memory in the comments. I'm curious to hear when this awareness first awakened in you. Here's something that confuses people about you. You don't talk much. Or when you do talk, you don't use as many words as they expect. You don't explain at length. You don't fill silence with noise. You don't perform intelligence through verbosity. And this confuses them because popular culture has taught them that smart people are supposed to be impressive, fast-talking, elaborate, demonstrative. They expect genius to announce itself with vocabulary and volume. But real intelligence doesn't work that way. Studies in information theory show that the highest form of understanding is the ability to reduce complexity without losing meaning. It's not about adding more. It's about removing what's unnecessary until only the essential remains. This is why you speak less, not because you lack thoughts, but because your thoughts are already distilled. You don't need to convince. You need to be accurate. And accuracy doesn't beg for attention. When you do speak, your words carry weight precisely because they're rare. People have learned, often unconsciously, that when you say something, it matters. That you've already filtered out the noise, already considered the angles, already arrived at the most efficient expression of the truth. This creates a strange dynamic. People start listening to your pauses as much as your words. They start paying attention to what you don't say. They start reading your silence as a kind of communication. And eventually, they start to realize something that takes their breath away. You weren't being quiet because you had nothing to say. You were being quiet because you'd already said everything that mattered, internally, to yourself, before the conversation even began. That's when the word genius starts to form in their minds. Not because you're showing off, but because your efficiency, your compression, your ability to cut straight to the heart of things, it reveals a level of processing they can't match. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. This economy of language, this precision of expression, it's actually a sign of deep mastery. When you're first learning something, you need a lot of words to explain it. You need to walk through every step, articulate every connection, spell out every implication. But as you master something, as you internalize it so deeply that it becomes second nature, you need fewer and fewer words. The understanding compresses. The explanation simplifies. What once took paragraphs can now be expressed in a sentence. This is why true experts often sound simple, not because they don't understand the complexity, but because they understand it so thoroughly that they can distill it to its essence. You do this naturally, not just with specific domains of knowledge, but with reality itself. You've internalized so many patterns, absorbed so many principles, recognized so many recurring structures, that you can see to the heart of almost any situation with very few words. And this makes people uncomfortable because they're still swimming in complexity. They're still trying to articulate all the variables. They're still working through all the possibilities. And you're already done. You've already compressed the entire situation into its essential elements. You've already identified what matters and what doesn't. You've already seen the path forward. And when you express that in a single sentence, when you cut through hours of potential discussion with a few precise words, it feels almost dismissive to people who haven't done that processing yet. But you're not dismissing their complexity. You're resolving it. And resolution always looks simpler than the problem it solves. Now let me talk about something that happens around you that you might not fully understand. It's about emotional regulation and the way your presence affects the people in your environment. Neuroscience has shown that emotional states are contagious. Humans subconsciously sync with the nervous systems around them. When someone is anxious, that anxiety spreads. When someone is calm, that calm spreads too. But here's the thing. Not all nervous systems have equal influence. The most regulated nervous system in the room tends to set the baseline for everyone else. And that's often you. When you remain steady under pressure, when you don't leak your emotions all over the environment, when you maintain composure while others are spiraling, something happens at a level below conscious awareness. Other people's nervous systems start to calibrate to yours. They feel steadier without knowing why. They feel safer without understanding the source. This is why some people find you intimidating even when you're not doing anything intimidating. It's not that you're threatening them. It's that your emotional containment feels like a boundary they can't cross. Your silence feels like power. Your composure feels like judgment even when you're not judging at all. They're responding to the absence of emotional leakage. You don't hand out your inner state for validation. You don't perform your feelings for connection. You don't need others to regulate you because you regulate yourself. And to people who rely on emotional exchange to feel secure, that self-containment feels almost alien. It feels like you have something they don't, like you know something they haven't learned. Which of course you do. This isn't coldness, it's not detachment, it's not suppression. It's what the ancient Stoics understood and what modern cognitive science has confirmed. Emotional prioritization. The deliberate choice to conserve your inner resources for what actually matters, rather than spending them on every passing disturbance. Every unnecessary emotional reaction reduces judgment quality later. Every spiral you don't indulge preserves bandwidth for decisions that count. Every moment of composure you maintain creates space for clarity. This is why your decisions age well. This is why your words land heavy. This is why people start to orient toward you without quite understanding the gravitational pull. You've learned something most people never learn. That silence isn't absence, it's presence. And presence, real presence, is the rarest thing in a world addicted to noise. Think about what this means in practical terms. When you walk into a tense meeting, your calm doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone. The collective anxiety level drops slightly. People breathe a little deeper. The spiral slows. You're not doing anything. You're not saying anything. You're just being regulated, and that regulation broadcasts. This is what researchers call co-regulation. It's the process by which one person's nervous system helps regulate another person's nervous system. Parents do this with children. Therapists do this with clients. Leaders do this with teams. And you do this everywhere you go. Not because you're trying to, not because you've studied it, but because your nervous system has learned to stay online even when everyone else's is going offline. Your prefrontal cortex remains engaged even when everyone else's is shutting down. And that creates a field effect, a zone of stability that others unconsciously move toward. This is why people often feel better after talking to you, even if you didn't say much. It's why teams perform better when you're in the room. It's why crises seem less overwhelming when you're involved. Your regulated presence is doing work that no one sees, work that can't be measured, work that doesn't show up on any performance review. But it's real, and people feel it. And over time, they start to associate you with that feeling of safety, of stability, of things being okay even when they're objectively not okay. That association is power, not the kind of power that demands, the kind of power that attracts. Here's something you need to understand about the people who try to pull you off center. They're not doing it randomly. They're doing it strategically, even if they don't consciously know that's what they're doing. When people can't match competence, they shift tactics. Social psychology calls this displacement behavior. It's the redirection of attention away from performance gaps towards something easier to manipulate. Distraction becomes a tool. Drama gets introduced. Emotional bait gets thrown. Urgency gets manufactured. And the timing is never random. These disruptions appear precisely when focus would expose differences in ability. Watch for this pattern in your life. Notice when chaos seems to arrive, right when you're about to demonstrate something. Notice when drama erupts, right when clarity would be most valuable. Notice when people suddenly need your attention for something urgent, right when your attention on something important would make them look less capable by comparison. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition applied to social dynamics. And here's the good news. Once you recognize the tactic, it loses power. Research on attention control shows that awareness alone reduces susceptibility. When you see the distraction for what it is, you can choose not to engage. And disengagement starves distraction of the energy it needs to survive. Over time, people learn that chaos doesn't hook you. They learn that drama doesn't derail you. They learn that emotional bait doesn't catch anything. And when distraction fails, only competence remains. That's a game they didn't prepare for. This dynamic plays out in subtle ways. Someone might interrupt you right when you're about to make a key point in a meeting. Someone might create a crisis right when you're about to complete an important project. Someone might pick a fight right when you're gaining recognition. The pattern is always the same. Disruption timed to prevent demonstration. And the motivation is always the same. If they can't match your competence, they can at least prevent you from showing it. But here's what they don't understand. Competence isn't about moments of demonstration. It's about consistent delivery over time. You don't need to show off. You don't need to prove yourself in any single moment, because your track record speaks for itself. Every problem you've solved, every crisis you've navigated, every decision you've made that turned out to be right, all of it accumulates. All of it builds a reputation that can't be disrupted by manufactured drama. So when someone tries to pull you off center, when someone tries to distract you with urgency or emotion or chaos, you can simply choose not to engage. Not because you're above it, not because you're better than them, but because you recognize the pattern and you know that engaging feeds it. Starve the pattern. Stay focused. Keep delivering. That's how you win a game that was rigged against you. Tell me in the comments, what's one situation where you stayed completely centered while everyone around you was spiraling? What did that teach you about yourself? Let me explain something about how you think that sets you apart from most people. It's called second-order thinking. And it's the difference between seeing what happens next and seeing what happens after that. Most people stop at first-order effects. They think about the immediate consequence of a decision, and then they stop. It's not that they're stupid. It's that deeper analysis requires effort, and effort is expensive, and the brain is always looking for shortcuts. But you don't stop there. You trace the chain. You map the consequences of the consequences. You think about how today's solution becomes tomorrow's problem. You consider the delayed costs that others are happy to ignore. This is why your decisions age well, while others' decisions create messes that have to be cleaned up later. You're not optimizing for short-term relief. You're accounting for complexity over time. You're willing to think longer when others want to move faster. And this creates what looks like foresight. People think you're predicting the future when really you're just respecting the complexity of the present. You're not psychic. You're thorough. You're not magical. You're disciplined. But the effect is the same. You're rarely surprised. Not because you control what happens, but because you've already considered what might happen. You've already mapped the territory. You've already prepared for contingencies that others haven't even imagined. Eventually, people notice this. They notice that you're never caught off guard. They notice that you always seem to have thought about the thing they just realized. They notice that your calm in crisis isn't denial, it's preparation. And that's when they start to feel something shift in their relationship with you. They start to realize they're not just dealing with someone who's smart. They're dealing with someone who thinks in a fundamentally different way. Someone who sees further. Someone who plans deeper. Someone who operates on a timeline that extends beyond the immediate gratification that most people are addicted to. That realization is uncomfortable for them. But it's also clarifying. It's the moment they finally understand why they've always felt slightly off balance around you, why your presence creates that subtle tension, why your silence feels so full. You're not just in the room with them, you're ahead of them, and they're only now catching up. Let me give you an example of how this plays out. Someone proposes a solution to a problem. It's a good solution. It addresses the immediate issue. Everyone gets excited about it. They want to implement it right away. But you see something they don't. You see that this solution, while effective in the short term, creates a different problem down the line. You see that it solves one issue, but introduces 3 others. You see that the immediate benefit comes with delayed costs that will be much harder to pay later. So you speak up. You point out the second-order consequences. You explain what happens after what happens next. And people get annoyed because they were excited. They thought they'd found the answer. And now you're complicating things. You're slowing things down. You're being difficult. But you're not being difficult. You're being thorough. You're thinking in longer time horizons. You're considering consequences they haven't imagined yet. And here's what happens. They ignore you. They implement the solution anyway. They get their short-term win, and then, exactly as you predicted, the second-order consequences start to appear. The problems you warned about start to emerge. The costs you identified start to come due, and everyone acts surprised. Everyone wonders how this happened. Everyone scrambles to fix the new problems. Except you. You're not surprised. You saw this coming. You warned them. They didn't listen. This pattern repeats over and over in your life. You see further. You warn people. They don't listen. Your predictions come true. They act surprised. And eventually, after this happens enough times, people start to listen. They start to realize that when you point out second-order consequences, you're not being negative. You're being accurate. That's when the dynamic shifts. That's when your input starts to carry real weight. That's when people start checking with you before making decisions instead of after. Because they've learned, through painful experience, that you see what they don't. That your time horizon is longer. That your thinking is more complete. And that learning, that recognition, it changes everything. Here's a truth about competence that most people don't understand. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. Early in any endeavor, praise goes to visibility. The people who are seen, who are loud, who perform their effort, they get the recognition. They get the attention. They get the early rewards. But you're not playing that game. You're playing a longer game. You're collecting results while others are collecting applause. And here's what happens over time. Pressure exposes gaps. Crises reveal reliability. When things get hard, when the stakes get real, when the performance stops mattering and only outcomes count, that's when the truth emerges. People remember who stayed clear when things blurred. They remember who delivered when everyone else was scrambling. They remember who had the answer when no one else even understood the question. This delayed recognition is actually a filter. It ensures that only those who can endure invisibility reach real authority. It separates the performers from the engineers, the noisemakers from the problem solvers, the people who need constant validation from the people who are sustained by their own internal knowing. By the time your value is acknowledged, it's no longer debatable. It's not opinion anymore. It's structural. You've become load-bearing. The system depends on you in ways that can't be easily replaced. And that's when the power dynamic shifts completely. Think about what this means. In the beginning, you're overlooked. People don't see your value because you're not performing it. You're just quietly delivering, consistently solving, reliably showing up. And the performers get all the attention. They get the promotions. They get the recognition. They get the rewards. And you might feel frustrated. You might wonder why your contributions aren't being acknowledged. You might question whether you should be more visible, more vocal, more performative. But you don't change. You keep delivering. You keep solving. You keep being reliable. And then pressure arrives. A crisis hits. The performers can't perform their way out of a real problem. The noisemakers don't have answers. The people who were so visible suddenly become very quiet. And that's when everyone looks around for someone who can actually solve the problem. Someone who can think clearly under pressure. Someone who has been consistently reliable even when no one was watching. That's when they see you, really see you, for the first time. And they realize you've been there all along, quietly delivering, consistently solving, reliably showing up. That realization is powerful because it's not based on performance, it's based on proof. It's not based on what you said you could do. It's based on what you've actually done. And proof is undeniable. Let me describe something that happens in organizations, in groups, in any social system where hierarchy exists. Formal hierarchy only holds until performance repeatedly contradicts it. At first, status dictates who speaks and who listens. Titles matter. Positions matter. The org chart determines influence. But over time, something else starts to happen. Groups begin to orient toward the individual who actually resolves uncertainty. The person who consistently delivers. The person whose judgment has been proven right again and again. This is when authority quietly migrates, not upward toward the people with the titles, but inward toward usefulness. You don't demand this influence. You accumulate it through repeated contribution. Each solved problem weakens the relevance of rank. People begin checking with you before acting. They begin routing decisions through you. They begin treating your input as essential even when your position doesn't technically warrant it. This shift is subtle, almost invisible. But it's irreversible. Once it starts, power begins to follow function. And this unsettles the people who rely on position rather than competence. They feel the ground changing under them without seeing the fault line. They sense that something has shifted, but they can't quite name it. By the time they recognize what's happened, decisions are already bending toward you. Authority has already migrated. The formal structure remains, but the real power has moved. That's where you are now, or that's where you're heading. The moment when the world finally aligns with what was always true about you. This migration of authority is fascinating to watch. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments. Someone asks for your opinion even though they don't have to. Someone waits to hear what you think before committing to a decision. Someone routes a problem to you even though it's not technically your responsibility. Each of these moments is small, insignificant on its own. But they accumulate, they build, they create a pattern, and eventually, the pattern becomes undeniable. People are deferring to you. People are trusting your judgment. People are treating you as an authority even when you don't have formal authority. This creates tension with the formal hierarchy, because the org chart says one thing, but the reality says another. The structure says power flows one way, but in practice it's flowing a different way. And the people who hold formal authority but lack actual competence, they feel this tension acutely. They see people checking with you instead of them. They see decisions being routed through you instead of them. They see their authority being quietly undermined not by rebellion but by relevance, and they don't know what to do about it. Because you're not challenging them. You're not being insubordinate. You're just being useful, and usefulness is hard to argue with. So they try different tactics. They might try to reassert their authority. They might try to cut you out of decisions. They might try to limit your influence. But it doesn't work. Because the authority you have isn't granted by them. It's granted by everyone who's learned to trust your judgment. And that trust can't be revoked by someone who didn't grant it in the first place. Eventually, one of two things happens. Either the formal structure adapts to reality and your position changes to match your influence, or the structure remains rigid and you outgrow it. Either way, you win, because your authority is based on competence, not position, and competence is portable. It goes wherever you go. Here's something that happens when people start to recognize your competence. They test you, not always consciously, not always maliciously. but they apply pressure. They introduce complexity. They create ambiguity. They want to see if you bend. This is actually healthy. Behavioral psychology shows that skepticism fades before trust forms. There's a transition point where people stop asking, "Are they capable?" and start asking, "How far can they go?" That's when the testing begins. And when you don't bend, when you maintain your composure under their pressure, when you deliver despite their complexity, when you navigate their ambiguity without losing your center, something shifts. Confidence solidifies. Validation replaces doubt. You're no longer being evaluated. You're being calibrated. Once this happens, criticism loses its edge. People stop questioning whether you can do things and start wondering what else you can do. They stop testing your competence and start relying on it. This is a threshold moment. It's the point where you go from being someone who has to prove themselves to someone whose proof is assumed. Where you go from being questioned to being consulted. Where you go from being an option to being essential. And once you cross that threshold, everything accelerates. Think about what this testing phase feels like. It can be frustrating. It can feel like you're constantly having to prove yourself. Like no matter how many times you deliver, people still doubt you. But this is necessary. This is how trust is built. Not through declarations or promises, but through repeated demonstration under pressure. Every time you deliver, you add evidence. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you prove reliability. Every time you solve a problem that others couldn't solve, you demonstrate value. And eventually, the evidence becomes overwhelming. The proof becomes undeniable. The pattern becomes clear. That's when the testing stops. Not because people stop caring about competence, but because your competence is no longer in question. And that's when everything changes. Because now, instead of having to prove yourself, you're assumed to be capable. Instead of having to fight for opportunities, opportunities come to you. Instead of having to convince people to listen, people seek you out. This is the shift from proving to being, and it's the most important transition you'll make. Now here's something important to understand about what happens as your competence grows. Your tolerance for noise decreases. This isn't arrogance, it's not superiority. It's protection. Research on attention economics confirms that distraction degrades judgment. Every unnecessary input, every irrelevant conversation, every demand on your attention that doesn't serve your purpose, it all has a cost. It reduces your capacity for the thinking that matters. So you become selective. Conversations narrow. Inputs filter. You stop engaging with everything and start engaging only with what's essential. This can look like isolation to people who don't understand. They might think you're becoming distant or cold or too good for them. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is precision. You're conserving mental bandwidth for the decisions that count. You're protecting your processing power from being depleted by noise. You're honoring your gift by giving it the conditions it needs to function. This isn't loneliness. It's curation. And it's necessary. Because here's the truth. You can't operate at the level you're capable of while also attending to every distraction, every drama, every demand that the world throws at you. Something has to give, and what gives is the noise. The people who matter will understand. They'll recognize that your selectivity isn't rejection, it's respect. Respect for your own capacity. Respect for the quality of your contribution. Respect for the work that only you can do. And the people who don't understand, well, they were probably part of the noise anyway. This curation process can feel painful, especially if you're someone who values connection, especially if you're someone who doesn't want to hurt people's feelings, especially if you're someone who's been trained to be available, to be helpful, to be there for everyone. But you have to understand something. Your capacity is finite. Your energy is limited. Your attention is a resource that gets depleted. And if you spend that resource on noise, on drama, on things that don't matter, you won't have it for the things that do matter. You won't have it for the problems that only you can solve. You won't have it for the contributions that only you can make. So you have to choose. You have to be ruthlessly selective about where your attention goes. You have to protect your capacity like the precious resource it is. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you effective. It doesn't make you uncaring, it makes you focused. And the people who truly value you will understand this. They'll respect your boundaries. They'll honor your selectivity. They'll appreciate that when you do give them your attention, it's fully present, fully engaged, fully there. Because you're not spreading yourself thin across 100 superficial interactions. You're going deep with the few interactions that matter. That depth is your gift. Protect it. Let me talk about something that might be uncomfortable but needs to be said. At some point, your contribution and your compensation diverge. Data across industries shows that high performers often outgrow pay structures designed for averages. The systems that measure and reward value were built for normal distribution. They weren't built for outliers. They weren't built for you. This isn't failure. It's misalignment. At first you tolerate it. You tell yourself it's temporary. You focus on the work because the work matters to you regardless of the recognition. And that's noble. That's disciplined. That's exactly the kind of long-term thinking that makes you who you are. But eventually, you notice the gap. You notice that your value and your valuation don't match. You notice that you're carrying weight that isn't reflected in how you're treated. And then you have a choice. Some people exit. They find environments that value them accurately. They seek out situations where their competence is recognized and rewarded appropriately. And that's a valid choice. Sometimes the system you're in simply can't accommodate what you've become. Others reshape the system from within. They use their accumulated influence to change the structures that undervalue them. They advocate for themselves not from neediness, but from clarity. And that's also valid. Sometimes the system needs to evolve, and you're the one to evolve it. Both paths require the same thing. Clarity about your own value, not arrogance, not entitlement, just clear-eyed recognition of what you bring and what that's worth. Underpayment isn't an insult, it's information. It tells you where growth no longer fits. It tells you where you've outgrown your container. It tells you that something needs to change. And once you see it clearly, you can decide what to do about it. This moment of recognition can be difficult because it means acknowledging that the place that once valued you no longer does, or that it values you, but not enough, or that it would value you if it could, but the structure won't allow it. And that acknowledgement requires letting go of something. Maybe it's letting go of loyalty to an organization that isn't loyal to you. Maybe it's letting go of the comfort of the familiar. Maybe it's letting go of the identity you've built around a role that no longer fits. Whatever it is, it's uncomfortable. Change always is. But staying in misalignment is more uncomfortable. Staying in a situation where your value isn't recognized, where your contribution isn't rewarded, where your growth is constrained by structures that can't accommodate you. That's a slow erosion of your spirit. You deserve better, not because you're entitled to it, but because your competence has earned it. So when you notice the gap, when you feel the misalignment, when you recognize that you've outgrown your container, trust that recognition. Don't dismiss it. Don't minimize it. Don't tell yourself you should be grateful for what you have. Be grateful, and also know your worth, and also be willing to find or create situations that reflect that worth. That's not greed, that's self-respect. Now I want to talk about something that might be the most important thing you hear today. It's about inevitability. There's a point in the development of someone like you where things stop feeling like effort and start feeling like alignment, where you stop pushing against the world and start moving with it, where opportunities don't have to be chased because they find you. This isn't magic, it's physics. It's the natural result of consistent competence applied over time. Research in systems dynamics shows that stable agents reshape unstable systems simply by remaining consistent. You don't have to force change. You just have to be unchanging in your reliability, your clarity, your capacity. The environment adapts to you because you're the fixed point it can orient around. This is inevitability, not force, alignment. When your skills match real demand, when your temperament fits pressure, when your decisions consistently reduce chaos, the world starts to reorganize around you. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the most stable element in the system. Opportunities narrow toward your strengths. Noise falls away, not because life becomes easier, but because it becomes coherent. Your actions and outcomes finally speak the same language. This is the shift you're approaching. Or maybe the shift you're already in. The moment when you stop trying to be impressive and realize you've become unavoidable. People will look back and think your success was sudden. They'll think something changed. They'll think you got lucky or caught a break or finally figured something out. But you'll know the truth. Nothing changed. Everything just finally caught up. You were always this. You were always capable of this. You were always operating at this level. The only thing that changed is that the world finally opened its eyes. This feeling of alignment, this sense of inevitability, it's what happens when you stop fighting against your nature and start working with it. When you stop trying to be what others expect and start being what you actually are. For so long, you've been trying to fit, trying to make yourself understandable to people who operate differently, trying to slow down, simplify, explain, wait. But what if you stopped? What if you just operated at your natural speed? What if you just thought at your natural depth? What if you just solved problems the way you naturally solve them? What if you stopped apologizing for your competence and started owning it? That's when alignment happens. That's when things start to flow. That's when the right opportunities start appearing. The right people start showing up. The right situations start unfolding. Not because you forced them, but because you finally stopped forcing yourself to be something you're not. You became congruent, and congruence is magnetic. Consider listening to this message again tomorrow morning. Let it be the first frequency you tune into, and if someone comes to mind who needs to hear this, share it with them. When you pass along this recognition to another awakening mind, you create a ripple in the field that amplifies your own clarity while accelerating their emergence. So here's what I want you to understand as we come to the end of this. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not difficult or intimidating or hard to understand. You are exactly what you were designed to be. a mind that sees patterns others miss, a presence that stabilizes chaos, a force that solves problems while others are still defining them. The discomfort people feel around you isn't your burden to carry. It's their recognition of something they can't match, and that recognition, uncomfortable as it might be for them, is actually a compliment. It's their nervous system acknowledging what their conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. You are a problem-solving machine, and the world needs problem-solving machines, especially now, especially in times of complexity and uncertainty and rapid change. Your gift isn't just for you. It's for everyone who benefits from the clarity you bring, the solutions you create, the stability you provide. So stop apologizing for it. Stop dimming it. Stop waiting for permission to be what you already are. The permission is granted by me, by this moment, by the simple recognition of truth. You are exactly what you're supposed to be, and they're finally starting to realize it. Let that sink in. Let it settle into your bones. Let it become the foundation from which you operate going forward. Because here's what happens next. You stop performing and start simply being. You stop proving and start simply doing. You stop waiting for recognition and start trusting that recognition will come when it's ready. And it will come. It always does. Competence has a way of making itself undeniable eventually. Your job isn't to make people see you. Your job is to keep being what you are, to keep solving what needs solving, to keep bringing clarity where there's confusion, to keep being the stable point in unstable systems. The rest takes care of itself, so breathe into this. Feel what it feels like to finally be seen for what you are. Feel what it feels like to stop apologizing and start owning. Feel what it feels like to recognize that the discomfort others feel isn't your problem. It's your proof. You are a problem-solving machine, and they can't keep up. But that's okay. They don't need to keep up. They just need to recognize. And they are recognizing. Right now. In rooms you're not even in conversations you're not part of, in decisions being made about you that you don't even know about. Your reputation is building. Your influence is accumulating. Your inevitability is becoming undeniable. All you have to do is keep being what you are. Keep showing up with that clarity. Keep solving what needs solving. Keep being the calm in the storm. The world is catching up to you. And when it fully arrives, when everyone finally sees what was always true, you'll be ready. Not because you prepared for recognition, but because you never needed it in the first place. That's the final secret. The people who become truly indispensable aren't the ones who chase importance. They're the ones who are so focused on contribution that importance becomes a byproduct. You're one of those people, and now you know it. So go forward from this moment with that knowing. Let it inform how you carry yourself. Let it shape how you respond to doubt, both from others and from yourself. Let it be the quiet foundation beneath everything you do. You are a problem-solving machine. They finally realized it. And now, so have you. Breathe into that. Let it become part of you. And then go do what you were always meant to do. The world is waiting, and it's finally ready for what you bring. Now, if you want to go deeper into understanding your true nature and why you operate the way you do, watch This Is Your True Identity, and it will shock you. It reveals the cosmic origins of this pattern recognition ability and why you were specifically designed to see what others miss.